In the meeting hall, "What are your thoughts about this matter?" Bruce asked. At the large round table, he was seated in the chair designated for the head of the table. His eyes moved around the group of people who were seated in front of him. Beta Robert, Delta Edger, Theta Noble, and Gamma Abraham, all the officials of the head Alpha, were sitting in the close chairs. There was a pack meeting going on in the pack house, and everyone was discussing a major issue. All the pillars of the Nightshade pack were present there. When Bruce saw that they were not speaking, he became extremely angry. From the following week onward, he was going to take over the role of leader of this pack. He was making every effort to acquire all of the knowledge that an alpha ought to have. It was not that he did not know how to fight in a war. He had been learning to fight for years. He had the potential to do everything that a head alpha could do. Because he was not any ordinary alpha, but Alpha Harry's son and Alpha Brian's brother. However, he was unaware of royal politics. He did not know how to run a pack, which he had been learning for more than 3 weeks. "He is going to be our alpha leader, so you all better think before you talk," Beta Robert said, looking at others. He was just doing his duty as a beta. Since Brian had decided to hand over the pack to Bruce, he was responsible for shaping him into the person Brian desired. "We are sorry to say, but we can't give our agreement in this matter. Alpha Bruce will be our future alpha. That's true. But he needs proof to ban Alpha Victor from coming into our pack. It is against the law. That's why his big brother could never banish him," a man said. Bruce tightened his fists. Others could see he was getting angry. They thought he reminded them of his brother. Another man cleared his throat and said politely, "We can't sign any deal." Bruce got so mad that he wanted to kill those men. He did not understand how they could possibly refuse him. Were they unaware that Victor was their most formidable adversary? They should cooperate with him and banish Victor. He got up from his chair in anger. "Bullshit!" Everyone was stunned by his unprofessional behavior. They realized that they had mistaken him for his big brother. Bruce was not an experienced man who could handle any situation like Alpha Brian. All the officials stood up to calm Bruce. They turned to the people and said, "The meeting is over." The men nodded their heads and left the meeting hall after glancing at Bruce for the last time. "Relax, Bruce," Delta Edger said. "How can I be relaxed? That man made my brother step down from his position, and I can't even ban him from my pack." Bruce said it in anger. He called a pack meeting today because he wanted to ban Victor from this pack, just like his family banned Brian years ago. But unfortunately, none of the pillars of this pack agreed with him. He felt that something was fishy with them. The contract needed their signatures, so now they were taking a step back from their duty. "You need to calm down first. They had a misconception that your brother could not ban him. The real reason was that he hated Victor and always wanted him to attack the pack so that he could kill him with his hands. That was the reason he always opened the border for him. You need to be brave. You tried but failed. It's okay. We will punish him some other way." Beta Robert made him understand. Bruce felt upset. His brother loved him a lot. He realized it when he stepped down from his position and handed the whole pack to him. He could have had an heir and secured the pack for himself, or he could have marked another woman to change the council's objection. He understood the love his brother had for Sophia. At the same time, Brian loved his family as well. He told his officials to shield Bruce like a shadow. Bruce stormed out of the meeting hall in a rage. He was walking down an empty hallway when his steps came to an abrupt halt. He saw the woman who was his mate now. Mila was looking outside the house while leaning against a wall. When he walked toward her, he saw her eyes on the cars leaving the pack house. "Mila," he muttered in a low voice. Mila let out a deep breath and turned her head toward him. He noticed her upset eyes, and he felt a pang in his heart. He did not know why he was feeling for this woman these days. He used to refer to her as her sister-in-law, and never thought of her in any other motive. But from the night he marked her, his wolf connected with hers. He started to feel strange for her. He used to love Sophia, but there was something missing in his heart. But after marking Mila, he felt that she filled the space in his heart. Fate always had a different plan for him. It looked like he and his brother were always with the wrong women. They cheated us. I think they are with Victor. Trust me, Bruce, Mila said in a soft tone. It was her request to Bruce that he ban Victor from this pack. He had promised her that he would try his best, but he failed to fulfill his promise. I am sorry, Bruce replied while looking at her carefully. Within weeks, she had changed. She never mentioned anything that would make Bruce feel guilty about the marking. However, she never attempted to approach him either. It's okay. I need to be a strong Luna to face that kind of devil, she said, turning away. She was about to start walking when Bruce grabbed her hand to stop her. She turned to face him. Bruce moved toward her. She was taken aback by the closeness. She tried to step back, but he held her waist and pulled her close to him. She gulped. What happened to Yo? He cut her off by placing his finger on her lips. She froze at the touch as her body felt the electrifying feeling of the mate bond. He removed his finger and looked into her eyes. I know many things have happened in our lives. My situation is not different from yours, Mila. I am heartbroken, and you are too. But it was not their faults, but our fate's plan, Bruce said. Mila lowered her head, but he placed his finger under her chin, making her look at him once again. Mila stared at him. She also began to feel the same as him. Bruce leaned down, which caused her to close her eyes. As soon as Bruce's lips made contact with hers, she kissed him back without hesitation. He smiled at the kiss and kissed her deeply. When they broke the kiss, they looked into each other. Mila, let's accept each other in our hearts. Life will be easy for us. Mila's eyes became blurry as she stared at the man who was her mate. She was running after Brian for a long time, but he never glanced at her like that. She was hungry for love, for a man who would protect her with love, not like a burden. She finally found the man. She nodded her head with a smile and replied, Yes, you are right. We should feel the bond and trust our fate. It was late at night. Brian had not returned home yet. Sophia was walking back and forth in the house while glancing at the door. She shook her head when she saw that it was past 11. No, I have to go out. Why is he not back yet? Sophia left the house and began to search for Brian. It had been almost 1 month since they came here and started to live, but Brian had never returned home this late, so she was worried for him. The day after tomorrow was the crown ceremony for the new alpha of the Nightshade pack, so she had to pack her bags too. After such a long time, they were going back to the pack house. She was happy that she was going to meet her family again. The whole month went really well. Brian was with her all the time, and whenever he wanted, he went to the forest to run to feel the refreshing air or the moonlight. Tonight seemed different to Sophia. She did not know why, but she was not feeling well. The whole month, she tried her best to make Brian mark her. She didn't want him to step down from his position. Even if it meant letting go of her life, she wanted to give up on Brian. She did not want to see anyone else in his place. But every time she tried to get close to him, he thought she desired to have sex. They ended up making up, and he gave her pleasure. He always said that he was afraid that the intimacy could take her life. Brian? Sophia called his name while looking around. He was nowhere to be found. She bit her bottom lip, not knowing where to search for him. She started to feel concerned about him. Suddenly, she stopped her steps when she heard something. Her ear perked up as a sound approached her from behind. She immediately tilted her head as if avoiding something, and a second later, a wooden stake pierced a tree. She looked at the stake, and her eyes shone ocean blue. She made her way to the stake and pulled it out. She threw it to the person in front of her after turning around, but her eyes widened when he did not move to dodge it. Brian! She screamed in fear. Just as it was about to hit Brian's forehead, he grabbed it with his hand and smirked at her. Not bad. The perfect target, huh? Sophia stared at him for a while. She walked up to him and pushed against his chest. How dare you make me scared like this? I will kill you today, she said. Let's see who will kill whom, he replied without removing his smirk. They began to fight like enemies. However, it was just a cute fight between two lovers. The way Sophia was moving her hands and legs, she looked like a perfect fighter. It was because Alpha Brian had trained her himself. Even if she was attacked, she would not have to shift, and she would undoubtedly kill the person. Brian grabbed her waist and pulled her against his chest. His other hand slowly brushed her upper thigh. He leaned in her ear and whispered, "If you keep moving your body in this short dress, how can I concentrate my mind on the fight, baby girl?" She blushed and shoved him. "You made me worry about you. I was scared. Where were you?" "I was just roaming around," he muttered. Sophia looked at him carefully. She stepped forward and kissed his cheek. "Are you upset about the crown ceremony?" she asked. He furrowed his brows. "No way. But I am. Brian, please mark me. It will prove that I am your mate." "And what about you?" he asked. "I really feel that you need someone who can love you more than anything. I feel that I never gave you that much of what you have given me. You can marry someone better if I die." Just as she had spoken, he grabbed the back of her neck and pulled her close to his face. "I didn't leave anything to hear this from you, woman. How can you ask for your death? I will pull you out of the ground if you dare to die," he said, glaring at her. His angry eyes were demonstrating that he was mad at her for talking about her death. They were really close to each other. Sophia smiled at him, though he was mad at her. Nowadays he liked to express his love, which she liked a lot. She brushed her lips against him, and Brian immediately calmed down. His gaze moved to her lips from her eyes. But before he could kiss her, she backed away. She took a few more steps back with a grin on her face. He did not understand what she was trying to do. Her brows lifted as she reached for her dress's back chain. He gulped when he saw her dress fall to her feet, exposing her entire body. She wore nothing inside. Was she trying to seduce him in the forest? His eyes moved on her perfect body, which was illuminated under the moonlight. Though she felt shy under his gaze, she grinned deeply and turned around. "What are you go?" He paused when she started to run and shifted into her wolf form on the way. His eyes froze on the beautiful white wolf. She was running like she had become free. She paused and turned her head toward him. Her ocean blue eyes met his eyes. Immediately, his eyes turned red as he groaned. It was like he could not control himself anymore. He ran after her and shifted instantly. The black wolf reached for the white wolf, and they looked at each other. It was the first time their wolves had met each other. Without a second, the black wolf jumped on the white wolf, sniffed her scent, and began to lick her neck. It was the beauty of nature. A black and a white wolf had become mates by fate and found themselves after leaving everyone behind. They went for a long run together. They relished the moonlight and the fresh air that caressed their furs. They were happy, living their lives as if there was no tomorrow. After the run, they returned home and shifted back. Sophia was delighted after meeting Brian's wolf. His wolf was giant, but it was as if he liked to play with her. He loved her and her wolf. Sophia went to take a shower. She felt addicted after the run and the closeness of her mate. However, when she came out of the shower, she felt a little dizzy. She immediately grabbed the doorknob of the bathroom. She shook her head and walked to the dressing table while wiping her hair with a towel. She thought it was because of her weak health, but she began to feel something different. She glanced at herself in the mirror and saw her eyes turn ocean blue. She experienced a sensation in her lower abdomen. She grabbed her belly and clutched her nightgown until she realized what was happening to her. She bit her bottom lip and mumbled, "I'm in my heat." She left the bedroom and went to the staircase. She saw Brian in a black night robe that was loosening around his chest. Sophia gulped as her eyes scanned him like prey. She was losing her mind with every passing moment, but there was something else that she needed to discover, and that was Brian's strange behavior. "Brian," she called him. He was sitting on a couch. When he heard her voice, he ignored her. He stood up and spoke up without looking at her. "Sophia, I'm leaving the house for tonight. Please don't come out of the house and sleep in the room. I will be back tomorrow morning." Sophia did not know what had happened to him suddenly. She could not even tell him about her heat. She saw him avoiding her gaze as he made his way to the door to leave the house. She shook her head as she did not want him to leave, not tonight. Her wolf started to growl as she wanted their mate, so Sophia rushed downstairs to stop him. Just as Brian touched the door to open it, Sophia hugged him from behind. "Please, don't leave me." Brian grabbed her hand and turned to him. I am not leaving you, but I am only going out for tonight. He paused when he saw her eyes, which were different from other times. The eyes that were filled with tears and the lips that were swollen beckoned him to devour them. But his eyes widened when he smelled her different scent. Are you? Sophia nodded her head innocently and replied, I'm in my heat, Brian. I want you. I don't want you to leave me. The softness of her voice and the broken tone of her voice caused his wolf to growl. She could see him clenching his jaw as if he were mad. She gasped when Brian grabbed her wrist tightly and pushed her away from him. His veins appeared to pop on his neck and forehead, and his eyes turned red. It appeared as though he was trying to exert control over himself. Don't try to seduce me, Omega. I'm in my rut tonight. If I hover over you, I will ruin you. Sophia was surprised. She understood that their heat and rut came to them together following their encounter with each other's wolves. In their ruts, alphas lost their minds. It was the time they wanted to have sex, as they did not feel tired and they could take their mate all night long. Meanwhile, she-wolves in heat also wanted the same. They desired to mate with a male wolf who would be willing to take them throughout the night. It looked like fate had planned the night only for them. It was extremely rare for mates to get heat and rut together. It might be very pleasurable for others, but not for Brian. He was trying his best to control himself, but the scent of pheromones that Sophia's body was releasing could not help him. All he wanted to do was take her right now. I can't do it, he muttered, fighting with his lust. He was in his senses, so he was trying to stop his wolf from taking over. But Sophia did not want that. She wanted Brian to have sex with her tonight. She did not think about anything else as she moved toward him. She cupped his cheeks with her soft hands and tilted her head. I want you so bad, Alpha. Please do it to me, she said, smashing her lips against his. That was the time he lost all control over himself. He wrapped his arms around her body and kissed her deeply. Taking her in his arms, he made his way upstairs. She moaned as she could not handle herself. She began to feel pain in her lower abdomen as she felt herself wet. After throwing her onto the bed, Brian climbed up on top of her body. As if he had lost his sanity, he pressed his body against hers and started to kiss her roughly. When he was on the bed, he transformed into a real beast. It was his groans that prompted her to moan even more than she already had. He had gone crazy when he felt how wet she was for him. She was slicking, and the scent was killing him, turning him even more than before. The day had finally arrived when Bruce would be elevated to the position of alpha of the Nightshade pack. Everyone was occupied with the festivities of the celebration. All the guests had already come. No alphas from out of the pack were invited to the celebration. Bruce, along with all of the other officials, did not accept any of the objections that were raised regarding it. They stated that it was important for their pack members, not for the other packs, so there was no need to call anyone here. But there was another reason behind it. Their fear was that Brian would be degraded by other alphas. They would mock him about giving up his position. Is everything ready? Alpha Harry asked Beta Robert. Robert nodded his head as he glanced at his phone from time to time. Alpha Harry walked toward him and patted his shoulder. What happened? Are you hiding something? I can see you anxious. You look worried from yesterday. Is everything okay? Robert lifted his head from his phone and shook his head at Alpha Harry. I can't reach Brian. His phone is unreachable. I thought he would come here in the early morning, but it's already evening and he is not here. Alpha Harry was stunned after hearing that. Go to him and check if everything is okay with him and Sophia. Robert glanced at the main door. They were all in the hall room, where a ceremony was going on. He and other officials were bound to be here. It was Brian's order not to leave his family for a second in his absence. I can't. It's a crown ceremony, and all the officials should be here, he muttered, feeling worried. Alpha thought for a moment and then said, Why don't you give the address to someone? They can go and check. Robert immediately shook his head. That's his secret place. I can't disclose that to anyone, not even to you. Alpha Harry lifted his brows in surprise. I am sorry if you feel offended, but that place is the most secure place in our pack where no one can reach or attack, Robert added. Alpha Harry let out a sigh and replied, That's a relief, then. Maybe they are on their way here. He promised that he would be here for the crown ceremony. You are right. He must be coming here with Sophia, he murmured. All the alphas and businessmen of the Nightshade pack were waiting for Bruce. They asked where he was, since it had been a while since they came to the venue. Gamma Abraham was standing in a corner while focusing his gaze on everyone. His gaze fell on his mother, who was beside Juliana and Bethany. He felt relieved that Brian let his mother live in the pack house. It helped him concentrate on his work. His mother's health was better now. Brian's mother, Juliana, was a sweet lady who said she was happy that someone had come to accompany her in the pack house, and his mother could feel at home here. Everyone turned silent when a pair entered the hall. Their eyes were on them. The woman was adorned in a white gown with heavy jewelry, while the man was wearing a black tuxedo. Bruce and Mila are here, Alpha Lucas said as he approached Alpha Harry. Everyone looked at the new couple carefully. They looked powerful, and it was surprising to them that in a month, Bruce indeed caught up with everything. When he was walking to his parents along with Mila, everyone could see his side profile, which closely resembled his big brother. He looks like his brother. I hope he will run our pack like Alpha Brian. I was surprised when I heard him leaving his position. But he said he would be here with us, so even if we have to face a desert, he will come to our rescue. Though Alpha Brian was not here, his name was still in everyone's mouth. They somehow remembered him and talked about him. He left a trace of dominance that no one could ever hover over. He was the king of this pack and the lord of the Moon Valley pack. It took time to build a kingdom, but it would take decades to forget a king. You look good. I am proud of you, Alpha Harry said to his young son. Bruce nodded at him. His eyes roamed around the hall as if he were looking for someone. They haven't arrived yet, Juliana explained as she approached his son. She smiled at Mila. A gorgeous Luna, she complimented. From the very beginning, she had a liking for Mila. Despite the fact that she came from a royal family, she was nonetheless a very obedient woman. Mila thanked Juliana and glanced at the main door. I hope they will be here soon. Everyone waited for Brian and Sophia for an hour, but they did not come. Another hour left, and still there was no news from them. Sarah and Nolan also got invited. They were excited to meet Sophia. They were worried for her health too. Sarah cried a lot after hearing from Abraham about Sophia's health a few days ago. Nolan handled her and said everything would be okay. They kept asking Abraham about when Sophia would come. Abraham became concerned about his sister too. It was strange that they did not show up today. It was the day when they would return to the pack house after a whole month. Brian could not be so careless as to miss his brother's crown ceremony. He let out a deep breath, thinking he should go out and see if they had come. He glanced at Bruce, who nodded at him. Though he used to dislike Bruce and was mad at him for cheating on Sophia, he moved on and let the past go since Sophia got her fated mate. Abraham made his way to the door when Ken stopped him. Are you going somewhere? Ken asked. Abraham looked at him and replied, I'm checking for my sister and Alpha Brian. Why? Oh, I also wanted to know about their arrival. Abraham nodded at him and left the hall. He did not feel the need to ask why he was waiting for their arrival, since everyone was also waiting for them. People greeted him as they walked into the hall. He was the Gamma of the pack, so all the pack members had to be respectful toward him. He gave nods at them while walking out of the pack house area. He had to walk for 10 minutes in order to get off the main street because the area was so large. Abraham pulled his phone out of his pocket and dialed Sophia's number. When he discovered her phone was out of reach, he groaned in frustration. Brian's phone was also unreachable. He ran his fingers through his hair, concerned for his sister. There was something in his heart that made him worry for her. He waited for a while, his gaze fixed on the road, waiting for the car Brian had left with a month ago. With a disappointed look, he turned around to go back to the pack house area. But as he was about to take a step toward the pack house area, his legs froze. His eyes turned cloudy as some people tried to mind-link him. He frowned and tried to understand what the other person was saying to him. Gamma Abraham. He heard the voice and recognized it as one of the border guards who had also been invited here. Since it was time for their new alpha, they invited the commander of the border to the crown ceremony. "Where are you?" he asked the border guard. At first, it was hard for him to understand what the man was trying to say, but when he heard him clearly, his eyes widened. "Gamma Abraham, Alpha Victor has attacked our pack." "What?" Bruce yelled in anger. Gamma Abraham had rushed to the hall to inform him of the news, as he was the future Alpha, and Brian was also not present. "What will we do now?" Juliana asked Alpha Harry with a worried look. Alpha Lucas was fiercer as he got mad at his son. "I should kill him today," he said. Bethany hurriedly grabbed his hand and reminded him, "He is still the head Alpha of the Moon Valley Pack. If you kill him or harm him, you will be punished by the Council. We have no evidence against him to harm him either. Only the people of this pack are able to do that." Alpha Lucas snatched his hand away from his wife's grip. "So what? I can assist them. I don't care if I am labeled a traitor. I can't let them destroy my daughter's life this time. He may have come here to kill Bruce and seize the throne." Mila tightened her fists as she felt hatred for Victor. That man had already ruined her life twice. That she would not let him kill her mate. "We will fight against him," Mila said as anger was visible in her eyes. Bruce looked at Beta Robert and said, "Declare the war. I will kill that man tonight. Even if I have to lose my legs, I will not let him go alive." Bruce's red eyes shone in rage. He hated Victor for harassing Mila, and he hated him for poisoning Sophia. At the same time, it was time for him to show the pack members that he was not a waste but an alpha who could give his life for them. Robert told the guests to leave for tonight. He cast a glance at the stage, which remained untouched. The crown ceremony had to be cancelled. He closed his eyes, hoping to mind-link Brian one last time in the hopes that his best friend would return. "Where are you, Brian? Your pack needs you." Delta Edger declared war against the Moon Valley Pack. Because their alpha leader attacked their pack, they had no choice but to wage war on them. Gamma Abraham led all the pack fighters to the forests. Before going to war, he promised his mother that he would not let go of the man who poisoned his sister and pushed her to the mouth of death. His mother cried but did not stop him because it was his duty to protect his pack. Everyone shifted and started to run in the forest, heading to the border. Alpha Lucas was also with them since he was by their side. They left the female members in the pack house. Though Bruce told Mila not to come to the war, Mila was stubborn and decided that she would join the war since she was the future Luna of the pack. It was time for her to let go of every fear in her heart for Victor and face him like a strong woman. Before they could reach the border, they witnessed thousands of wolves killing their border guards. Bruce's eyes widened as he noticed the wolves lying dead on the ground. He growled at the wolves who approached him and attacked them. The war began in full rage and hatred. All of their goals were not only to win the war, but also to kill the man responsible for their remorse. Mila's brown wolf was strong, as she killed wolves like a Luna. When Juliana said she was Luna material, she was right. Indeed, she was perfect to be a Luna. But she was not that powerful to stand next to Alpha Brian. No one could match him, which was why Mila and her parents had felt so blessed all these years. However, fate had other plans. It did not snatch the position from her, but changed the man of her life. Mila glanced at Bruce and saw how he was fighting with his teeth and nails. She was amazed by his strong moves and enthusiasm about the war. Perhaps it was his first war, and he had to prove himself to be an alpha leader. The atmosphere turned wild as they kept fighting. Robert and Edger frowned as they saw their own pack fighters kill their fellow pack fighters. They turned to Abraham with wide eyes. Abraham did not realize it until Theta Noble's mind linked him to say it. "How is that possible? They are our pack fighters." Abraham groaned in anger. They were losing the war. It looked like Victor had bought their pack fighters to fight for him. Since they knew Alpha Brian was not here, they agreed to be with them. All the sub-alphas who were the pillars of the Nightshade pack were here to fight, but not against Victor, but their own pack. They betrayed them. Robert was losing his mind as he had to kill his own pack fighters when he saw them killing their other warriors. Their eyes fell on the man who hadn't shifted yet, as if he did not need to. He was grinning as if he had already won the battle. Keep fighting. Even if you kill your own fighters, you will eventually lose the war. Victor's voice echoed as his gaze shifted to Bruce and all of the officials. Abraham growled and rushed toward him since he was in a close direction. But before he could reach Victor, a few wolves rushed to him and attacked him together. Bruce looked around in fear of losing everything. Victor was not a fool, but a great player who steered all of their warriors toward him. They were already doomed to defeat in the war. At that time, a loud growl echoed through the forest, which not only shook the leaves of the tree, but also shook the legs of the wolves in the war. There was a cold wind blowing, and the black clouds covered the moon completely. Everyone turned to look in the direction where the growl came from. They saw the silhouette of a giant wolf approaching. The pack fighters of the Nightshade took a back step as they realized who had come to join the war. They did not expect him to be here. They regretted their decision to support Victor. The giant wolf came to a halt before Beta Robert, his red eyes darting around the fighters. His black fur was so dark that it made the Moon Valley pack fighters afraid to approach him. All the wolves shook internally and said in their minds, "Lynx. Alpha Brian is here." Victor looked at Brian. He had a smirk on his face as he walked in Brian's direction. Behind him were many fighters who were only protecting him. He stopped close to a tree and leaned his back against it. "Oh, Alpha Brian, did you really think you were one step ahead of me? Didn't I tell you? In every way, only I will win. You tried to save your mate from me, but now you need to save her from yourself. By the way, where is she now? Do not tell me she is dead. I thought about going for her after the war, but unfortunately, you killed that naive woman." He laughed while looking at Brian. His eyes were brimming with mockery. Brian growled at him as he rushed up to him. The war resumed as the Moon Valley Pack's fighters attempted to stop him. But his body was so massive that they could not reach his neck. Before they could even touch him, he tossed their bodies to the ground by just moving his head. His officials were relieved that he was back. His father and brother were surprised. Victor saw how Brian was approaching in his direction, so he turned to look at Brian's family members. His gaze was drawn to the she-wolf, Mila's wolf. His grin deepened as he signaled to his beta and ordered, "Kill that woman." Brian's pause came to a halt as he turned his head. He noticed Victor's beta running toward Mila. He turned around and dashed towards Mila to save her. Mila was so shocked that she let out a howl. Victor's beta did not give her a chance to move because he arrived faster than anyone. Mila took a step back as the past played on her mind. Victor's beta used to have bad intentions toward her. She used to hear Victor say that he would let his beta play with her. Though Victor's beta never touched her, she had the fear, which returned to her like a trauma. That wolf snarled at her while nuzzling the fur around her neck. She howled as she tried to fight back. Just as he was about to bite her leg, a gray wolf bit his neck and knocked him down. Mila's eyes widened for a while. Then she realized Bruce was the one who had saved her. Bruce killed Victor's beta, growling in the mind link. "How dare you touch my mate?" He looked at Victor and warned him in the mind link. "If you have the audacity to touch her or let your man touch her, I will chop your manhood and make your officials eat it." Mila was staring at Bruce. Her heart began to pound harder. Her wolf took a step toward him, rubbing her head against his neck. Bruce looked at Mila and was surprised by her action. If Mila had not fallen for Bruce for the entire month, her heart skipped a beat now. She fell deeply in love with this man. The man she was looking for in her life was not anyone else but him. "You all are emotional fools," Victor muttered as if he were losing his patience. It was true that he did not expect Brian to come to the war. He had information that Brian and Sophia had left the pack. No one was sure where they had gone. He thought Brian was trying to save his face, so he flew away with Sophia. "I think it's time for your death, Alpha Brian. I am losing my patience now." Victor took out a wooden stake. He smirked at Brian, who was fighting with other wolves to reach him. He gripped the wooden stake tightly and aimed the target in Brian's direction. Bruce and Robert noticed what Victor was doing. They growled to notify Brian of the situation. However, It was too late because Victor had already raised his hand to do it. It was just as he was about to throw the stake that something came to pierce his arm, which caused him to let out a loud groan. He discovered that someone had attacked him with another wooden stake pierced through his arm. He was stunned. Everyone was in their wolf form except him. Then who did that? He slowly shifted his gaze to the side. His eyebrows arched in surprise. Sophia? Everyone turned to see where he was looking as soon as they heard him. Sophia was standing at a distance. She was not in her wolf form. She was wearing a simple white long dress, which was thin and loose. She started to walk toward Victor. Victor was so focused on her that he did not notice the other two women behind her. It looks like Alpha Brian has such great patience and love for you. If it were me, I would have marked you the first night to secure my position. Sophia stared at him as she came to a stop a short distance away. Victor did not feel any danger from her. In fact, he was pleased that she had come to the war. Brian's death was inevitable now. If he killed her, Brian would die in sorrow for losing her anyway. Victor took a step forward while muttering, "It's good that Brian didn't mark you. Otherwise, how can his mate die in my ha?" Victor froze when the dark clouds cleared from the moon, and the moonlight illuminated the ground, allowing him to see Sophia clearly. He was taken aback when his gaze landed on her neck. "He marked you! How? How on earth are you still alive?" Victor was unable to help but stutter. He was shaken from inside because what he was seeing was impossible. There was no way Sophia could survive after getting marked. Sophia's lips formed a smirk as she reacted for the first time after coming to the war. Her eyes moved to Brian, who was looking at her. As if in a flashback, they recalled what had happened yesterday after Brian noticed his mark on her neck. Flashback. Sophia. Brian had no idea what had happened to Sophia. His gaze lingered on the black veins that slowly started to emerge throughout her entire body. He immediately grabbed his phone and called the last person who could help him. The phone connected, and he yelled, "Angelina, I am sending you my location. Come here right now." He cut the call and sent her the address. Where Brian was staying right now was a secret place, and no one was aware of the location for safety purposes. He sat beside Sophia and began to rub her hand. "I'm sorry." That was the only thing he repeated the whole time. Angelina called her after an hour, telling him she was on her way but would take longer because she was not a werewolf capable of shifting and arriving fastly. Brian threw his phone to the ground in frustration. His phone broke, but he did not care. He pulled his hair in anger as he watched the love of his life die. He caged his wolf inside him. The fact that he had marked Sophia made him angry with both himself and his wolf. "I will never forgive myself." What was happening to Sophia was a sign of death. He almost felt traumatized by watching her die in front of his eyes. When Angelina arrived at the house, she was shocked. She could not speak further as her eyes widened. She rushed to Sophia, and her lips trembled. "She is dying, Alpha." She could not believe her eyes. All of the bloodlines turned black and were visible. "Save her," Brian said, clenching his jaw. His vision was blurry. He was fighting himself by not shedding any tears. He had never cried before, but seeing Sophia in that state was making him feel broken. He wanted to die with her. He felt like the worst mate in the world for killing his own mate. Angelina took a deep breath and turned to face Brian. "You are a moonchild. I need your blood. I think it can help us." Brian turned his head from left to right before reaching for a knife from the fruit basket on a small table near the couch. He cut deep into his palm and clenched his fist. A pool of blood began to drain from his wound. Angelina gasped when she saw how deeply he had cut his hand. "I wanted a few droplets. You cut so deep." Brian glared at her, demonstrating that he was losing his mind. She quickly placed her palm under his fist. Her palm became bloody from his blood. She then turned to Sophia and bent down. She closed her eyes and started to chant something. Brian kept his gaze fixed on Sophia. He took a deep breath as he choked back his anxiety. Because of his fear, his heart was beating as fast as a marathon. When Angela opened her eyes, they were glowing emerald. She touched Sophia's neck with her bloodied palm, pressing it against Brian's mark. She began to chant once more. doing her best to temporarily neutralize the poison's effects. But she took a step back with wide eyes, as though something had shoved her hard. She felt an electric force on her body, causing her hand to start shaking. "What happened?" Brian asked when he saw her moving back. Angelina blinked her eyes. It appeared as though she was startled. Her eyes were on Sophia, and her lips were trembling. "She is. She is what? Why can't you help me? Save her, Angelina," Brian yelled at her out of frustration. "I cannot save her." Brian growled at her as he approached her and grabbed her arms. "What did you just say? You are the most powerful witch capable of rescuing anyone from death. She is not dead yet, so why can't you help me?" "She is still breathing. If you really want to stay alive, save her," he said, gritting his teeth in the fit of rage. "I can't." "Why?" Angelina's whole body began to shake as her eyes moved to Sophia again. "Because she is a moonchild." "What?" he muttered, looking at her in confusion. Angelina nodded her head. "Yes, Alpha, she is a moonchild, just like you. I was not aware of it until I tried to communicate with her wolf. She is so powerful that I can't help her right now. Only the moon can save her child. She requires the power, which is moonlight. My spells will not work on her without the moon." Brian spent the entire day waiting for nightfall. He continued to observe Sophia's breath. It was truly heartbreaking. He had not felt this heartbreak when she stabbed his heart, but now that she was dying. When the night came, Angelina instructed Brian to bring Sophia to the forest under the moonlight. Brian carried Sophia to the forest. He laid her near a lake where the moon could be easily seen. Surprisingly, the moon was so bright today, as if it were glowing to save its moonchild. Angelina closed her eyes and started to chant spells that could help Sophia's wolf connect with her. Brian stared at Sophia. She had a white quilt covering her body, and it was glowing in the moonlight. People would have thought she had become ugly because of her black bloodline, but in his eyes, she was still the most beautiful girl in the world. When Angelina's voice became louder, he shifted her gaze at her. He noticed that her nose was bleeding. When she stopped, he returned his gaze to Sophia. He felt relieved when he noticed that all of her black veins were slowly fading from her body, but his heart froze when he could not hear her heartbeat. Angelina opened her eyes and looked at Sophia with shock. She began to shake Sophia. "Sophia?" On the other hand, Sophia did not open her eyes, looking like her body was slowly leaning toward death. Brian's entire body shook as he lifted her head, placed it on his lap, and hugged her. "Please don't die. I don't want to live without you." Angelina burst into tears when she realized she had not saved Sophia. She had just attempted to communicate with her wolf, which had been harmed by the poison and had received the effect of Brian's mark. It was the only way to keep her alive. But she failed to do so. She had never seen her alpha break down like that. Years of her spells and experiments were in vain. Meanwhile, Brian blamed himself. He killed his mate. He was about to move from Sophia to howl in the pain that he was feeling in his heart. But before he could move, he felt a soft touch on the back. He was surprised to realize it was Sophia's touch. He moved his head from her neck and looked at her. Sophia slowly opened her eyes. It was glowing ocean blue. Her pale face started to transform into beauty. Her skin shone in the moonlight, and she blinked her eyes. Her eyes caught Angelina, who looked shocked. She then turned her gaze to the man who was holding her in his arms. His red eyes met hers, and a smile appeared on her lips. She reached her hand up to his cheek and wiped the tear that was rolling down his cheek. "Mate, why are you crying?" Brian shut his eyes and hugged her tightly. "I thought you." Sophia shook her head and replied, "I told you I would not die for your mark. The moon goddess loves you. She does not like seeing you in pain. She gave me back my life for you." End of the flashback. Victor shook his head in disbelief. "No, it's impossible." Abraham's eyes lit up. Her sister was there, looking fine. Not only had Brian marked Sophia, but his sister was still alive after getting the mark. There was no other word to describe it other than a miracle. Victor turned to Brian and asked, "How did you do that? How could you mark her? How is she still alive?" Brian shifted his gaze from Sophia to Victor. His lips parted as his canines emerged. Almost as if he were smirking at him, his eyes displaying a mocking expression. He opened his mind to link everyone around him and replied to Victor, Checkmate. Victor tightened his fists, realizing that his plan had gone awry. Kill her, he ordered to his other officials, who were behind him. Two of his officials ran toward Sophia and jumped on her to attack. Victor noticed Brian did not make a move to save her. It was as if he knew that even without shifting into her wolf form, she could defend herself. Sophia did not take a step back. Instead, she charged at the two wolves, wounding them with the other two stakes in her hand. Victor realized that she was holding silver stakes. He looked at his officials, who were lying on the ground, trying to breathe in pain. The war continued as everyone became involved in the fighting. Everyone was astounded by how quickly she moved her hands to wound the two powerful official wolves. Victor growled in anger. "How dare you?" Sophia cut him off and said, "How dare you play with other people's lives? You are a cowardly man who has ruined the lives of countless girls. You dared to poison me. What did you think? I am a weak Omega who will die in your conspiracy. You are a filthy bastard." Victor's rage grew stronger as he tilted his head, preparing to shift. "Don't let him shift," Brian said to Sophia. She immediately threw another stake toward Victor, this time on his leg. He let out a painful groan. He got so mad at her that he rushed toward her to attack her, but he froze in the middle of the way when her eyes turned ocean blue. He felt her eyes were doing something with his mind. "What are you doing?" he asked, trying to move. It was as though her eyes had the ability to make him unmoved. He felt trapped in that place. Sophia walked toward him with a smirk. "Why are you so scared?" "Oh, wait. I remember people telling me about how you escaped from the last war to save your life. At least you should get some balls to shift before entering a war." Victor tried to move, but when Sophia came to a stop in front of him, her eyes moved behind him. The wolves, who had only worked to protect Victor, tried to move toward her, but her eyes stopped them as well. They collapsed to the ground in agony, despite not being physically injured. "What are you doing to my men?" Victor asked, growling at her. As soon as he realized he was moving, he grabbed Sophia's neck and pushed her back against a tree. Brian let out a deep growl that rattled the wolves around him. He dashed toward Sophia, pushing the wolves out of his sight. Bruce also tried to reach her, but was stopped by his own pack fighters. Brian bit Victor's leg and was about to tear it off his body, but Sophia stopped him by saying, "Don't. He is my prey." Victor's hand trembled with her words. "Have you lost your mind? You are talking to an alpha, a head alpha. Do you know that?" Sophia spit on him and replied, "I am talking to a shameless asshole who only knows how to use girls with his friends and then throw them to death. A man like you should not exist." Victor released his grip on her neck and wiped his face in a furious manner. He had never before experienced such a level of disrespect from another person. He still believed he would win the war. In fact, how would they defeat him? Their pack fighters were fighting for him. Before he could grab Sophia again, Brian bit his leg once again. He moved him away from Sophia and growled at him. "You dared to touch him again and did not take my last warning seriously. Now how will you protect yourself from me?" Brian said that and bit Victor's fingers. Victor groaned in pain. He pushed Brian's head and tried to move him, but Brian had already broken his fingers, almost ripping them from his hand. Brian turned to the pack fighters who were fighting. He growled at them. His pack fighters fell to their knees in submission, including the traitors. "Kill them who betrayed the Nightshade pack," he commanded his loyal fighters. Since Bruce had not been crowned as the alpha leader yet, Brian was still their head alpha. After seeing that he had already marked his mate, it was determined that she was his fated mate, and the council's complaint was dismissed. So he was still holding the position of head alpha of the Nightshade pack. The pack fighters who were fighting for their own pack got the strength of their alpha and killed the wolves who turned into traitors. Victor saw his bloodied finger. He shook his hand, only to discover that they were motionless. He yelled at Brian, "I am going to kill you today." He grabbed a silver stake from the ground, which had fallen from Sophia's grasp when he pushed her against the tree. Just as Victor attempted to pierce Brian's heart, Sophia pushed Brian and came to his position. The stake pierced her arms. She moaned in pain. Brian's eyes widened. "Sophia! Sophia glared at Victor as she pulled the stake out of her arm in anger. It shocked everyone. Alpha Harry could not believe what he was witnessing. The way Sophia behaved was like she was not an Omega but a powerful male alpha who could not feel any pain. Bruce, Mila, and Mila's father, Alpha Lucas, were equally shocked. Brian's officials reached him. Brian stopped them from moving by gazing at them. Sophia looked into Victor's eyes and said, "You said the day when I will have no fear of death will be the day I can kill you, remember? Now look into my eyes. I don't have any fear, because I have returned from the mouth of death." Victor was stunned. He thought back to the day he told her that in his car. He was so furious with her that day that she even dared to threaten to kill him, but he had never expected this woman to become so fearless. Sophia took a few steps backward. It was impossible for Victor to comprehend what was going on inside of her head. She turned her head and looked at someone. A young girl emerged from the shadows and from beneath a tree. Victor raised his eyebrows as he looked at the girl. "Rose, I brought you here to witness your demise. You said you don't want to live, but after witnessing his death, you will want to live your life once again," Sophia said, looking at Rose. Victor heard her and growled at her. "A woman like you can't kill me. I will kill you before that." Once again, Victor went up to her and approached her, but this time Sophia glared at him. He groaned when he felt mental pain. Sophia's wolf possessed this ability. The pain it causes to the brain could kill anyone. Before Victor could react further, he saw fire blazing around him and Sophia. Victor looked around and was startled. Then he heard a female voice. "How are you, Alpha Victor? Long time. No see? Angelina," he muttered while holding his head. The pain intensified with each passing second. Angelina emerged from another tree, just like Rose, and looked at Victor. "I wish my potion had worked to kill you years ago. You killed my father and made me homeless. Why? Just because he witnessed the last war and told your pack the truth about who actually saved them? What did you think? I wasn't aware of the truth. I knew everything and was waiting to kill you. Today is the day, but I won't kill you, because your death is written in someone else's hand." Angelina's words shocked everyone, except Brian. They were not aware of it. Sophia felt she had found another reason to kill Victor. Her hatred was pushing her to kill him, just like the heat of the fire was rising up inside her. "You all are talking nonsense. I will not let you all win," Victor said, though he was feeling pain in his head. He turned around, trying to find wolves to help him, but surprisingly, Brian's officials were killing them. He was losing everything. He was losing a winning war. His eyes fell on his father. "Dad." Alpha Lucas growled at him. "Don't call me Dad. I wish I could have killed you the day you were born. It's good that your mother is not alive, otherwise she would not be able to take in how dirty her son had become. You are my dad. How can you support the other pack? If I survive, I will kill you first." However, no one seemed to be paying attention to his warning. He saw Mila looking at him. He could see a proud look in her eyes, as if she were telling him that she was not afraid of him anymore. His gaze moved to Brian, who was just a little distance from the circle of fire. "No one will save you. I killed your mate. Now my mate will kill you. It's your fate. I have never seen a coward like you. You don't know how to fight. You don't know how to protect your family. You don't know how to secure your pack. You don't know how to respect women, and you don't know what the meaning of being an alpha leader is. What a shame." Brian mocked him in the mind link. Victor clenched his jaw and turned to Sophia. "How will you kill me? With this silver stake? Do you think you can kill me with it?" At that moment, Angelina pulled out a dagger. It had blood on it. She strode over to the fire and threw it to Sophia. Victor tried to grab it before her, but Sophia's gaze narrowed, and Victor dropped to his knees in agony. "Not so easy, Victor," she murmured. She reached up and took the dagger in her hand. After glancing at the blood on it, she uttered, "Do you know what it is?" Victor nearly begged her to put an end to the mental anguish he was experiencing. It was getting close to mentally crippling him. "It is soaked with the blood of 2 moon children. One is your favorite adversary, Alpha Brian, and the other." She paused and blinked her eyes to stop messing with Victor's mind. He raised his head to look at her to know who the second person was. So she continued, "The other is me, your favorite pawn, whom you have manipulated for so long." Sophia's lips were curved into a dark grin. She cast a bitter smile at him. "Because of you, I stabbed my mate. You increased my hatred for him. You are the reason why he could not confess that he loved me. It was you who always desired his throne, sometimes by sending your mate into his bed, sometimes by attempting to arrange a wedding to bring his mate into your bed." Victor shook his head. He found himself completely alone. He did not want to die. He realized that there was no one he could call his family or close friends who could come to save him now. Victor tried to stand up, but Sophia had already stabbed the dagger into his chest. His heart was moved by it because it went to such a profound level. The sudden pain that he felt in his heart caused his eyes to widen. He could feel the dagger moving deeper inside. Upon lowering his head, he witnessed her twisting the dagger that was embedded within his heart. As soon as Sophia let go of the dagger, Victor grabbed it with his hands, with the intention of removing it from his heart. "If you try to pull it out, you will die. If you cannot get it out, you will continue to feel the stab in your heart. Let's see how long you can last like that," Sophia said. Victor howled and screamed in pain. Meanwhile, Brian was staring at Sophia. He had no headaches about Victor. The fact of the matter was that Victor was nowhere near capable of competing with him. Even if Sophia had not been the one to kill Victor, he would have done so regardless. But he was impressed by the strength, power, and ability of the woman. By simply donning the plain white cloth, she gave off an impression of strength. The beauty of her blue eyes compelled him to keep staring at them for a long time. When Victor's body suddenly fell to the ground, his gaze shifted to Victor. The way his hand was shaking gave the impression that he was trying to keep himself alive, but at the same time he was unable to take the pain. He was going through the most excruciating pain, even more so than death itself. It was only a matter of minutes before Victor retrieved the dagger from his chest. The circle of fire dissipated at the precise moment that Victor's eyes closed, as if his soul had departed from his body. War came to an end. Everything turned silent. When everyone's eyes were on Victor's dead body, Sophia shifted into her wolf form, which Victor could never get the opportunity to see. Her white wolf under the moonlight looked blessed. Everyone stared at her in wonder. She howled as she gazed up at the moon. Beta Robert immediately kneeled down and said loudly in the mind link, "All hail to the Luna of our pack." In front of the mirror, Sophia was looking at herself. The white bridal gown fitted her perfectly. Brian picked out the dress for her. She blushed just thinking about his reaction if he saw her in this dress. "You look beautiful." A voice reached her ear as she shifted her eyes on the woman standing behind her through the mirror. The woman was also wearing a bridal gown. "Thanks, Mila. You look gorgeous as always," Sophia said, turning around to face her. 2 weeks had passed since the war, and everything had changed for everyone. Brian reclaimed his position because Bruce had not been crowned before the war, and he had already marked her. But he was a man of his words. He did not let down his younger brother. As he said, Bruce had become the head of Alpha, but not the head alpha of the Nightshade pack, but the Moon Valley pack. The Moon Valley pack wanted Brian to be their alpha, but since it was his decision to give up and Mila got married to Bruce, who was Brian's younger brother, they were also happy with him. They accepted him wholeheartedly. The rivalry between the two packs ended when Victor died in the war. That night, Brian declared that he would marry Sophia in front of the pack members with every ritual. Then he announced Bruce and Mila's wedding on the same date. "Sophia, I want to apologize for all the rude behavior. Forgive me," Mila said, reaching out for her hand. Sophia smiled and rubbed the back of her hand. From the day she learned about Mila's past, she felt Mila was not a bad woman. She understood her and her situation. She held no grudges against her. "Don't apologize. I told you that I no longer have anything in my heart. I am happy with everyone around me. I know it's kind of awkward for you since Bruce is my ex-boyfriend, but I am happy to see you both happy together." Mila hugged her with a smile. She would leave this pack with Bruce after the wedding, so she wanted to break all the ice before leaving. Sophia patted her back with a cheerful expression. At that time, they heard a loud sound at the door. They broke the hug and glanced at the door. Sarah cocked her head to peek inside. "May I come in?" she asked. Yeah, sure. I am leaving you both alone," Mila said, making her way to the door. She only came here to talk to Sophia since the wedding would start any time soon. Sarah rushed into the room and hugged Sophia after Mila left. Sophia embraced her tightly. They broke their embrace, and Sarah said, "I cannot believe how stunning you look." "Thank you, Sarah." "Oh, come on. By the way, I know how you are feeling inside. You are nervous, right?" Sophia's cheeks turned red. "Well, I know. I saw Alpha Brian in the wedding hall. He looks jaw-dropping handsome with his new haircut. I bet you will have to control yourself in front of us." Sophia laughed at her remarks. After they had a conversation, they noticed Sophia's mother entering the room to take her to the hall. Sophia hugged her mother. Hannah said she was blessed to have a daughter like her. After a while, Sophia walked to the wedding hall with her mother. Mila was beside her, accompanied by her mother. Bethany smiled at Sophia, who returned it politely. Behind them were their bridesmaids, Sarah and Angelina. Angela was pleased to see how things were going. She was delighted to help Sophia when she was about to die. She believed Sophia had almost died, and it was a miracle that she had survived. However, she was dissatisfied with Brian's one decision. He declared her as the lead witch of the Moon Valley Pack. But before she could argue with him, she realized he had made Ken the Gamma of the Moon Valley Pack. Brian said that Bruce needed her more than he did. At the same time, a witch had a life, and she could live her life with Ken happily. He also handled Ken's father regarding their marriage. Together, they made their way into the hall. Sophia caught everyone's attention as she walked on the red carpet, making her way to the stage. Her mother moved to the corner as Abraham approached Sophia and took her hand. He kissed her head and said, "Best wishes for your new life, Luna." She hit his chest lightly and said, "Brother, please. I told you I will always be your Sophie." They shared a chuckle before he led her to the stage. Because she had no father, Abraham was the one who escorted her to her groom. Meanwhile, Alpha Lucas was holding Mila's hand. They went on stage. Alpha Lucas put his daughter's hand on Bruce's, and Abraham placed Sophia's hand on Brian's. They left the stage, leaving the two couples on the stage. Sophia glanced at Brian. She blushed when she realized that what Sarah had told her was true. Brian looked so handsome that it was difficult for her to stay under control. She could not take her eyes away from him. The priest first approached Bruce and Mila. Everyone, including Brian and Sophia, applauded when Bruce and Mila made their vows to each other. But Brian's eyes were on Sophia all the time. When the priest approached them, he bowed to them because they were the Alpha and Luna of the pack. "Do you, Brian Morrison, accept Sophia Berge as your wife?" "Of course, I do," Brian replied with a smile. Sophia bit her bottom lip to keep her smile under control. "Do you, Sophia Berge, accept Brian Morrison as your husband?" "Yes, I do." The priest pronounced them husband and wife. After that, they exchanged rings. Everyone showed their admiration for them by bowing and cheering for them. They had dinner together after having a gathering with their family and friends. Brian's officials, including Abraham, begin to tease him. "I know I am your Gamma, but don't mess with my sister. She is my Luna too. So it's become tough to decide whom I should take a stand for," Abraham said with a laugh. "No doubt. You have to be with your Alpha, because your Alpha will always be with his Luna." Abraham was stunned by his answer. However, it was not unknown to anyone how much Alpha Brian loved his Luna. Following the wedding reception, Bruce and Mila headed to the Moon Valley Pack with Mila's parents. Alpha Harry and Juliana were not upset, but rather proud that their younger son would lead the pack. Bruce asked that they spend a few months living with him and Mila, exactly as they would be staying here. They promised to visit and stay there annually to spend time with both of their sons. When Sophia got into the car with Brian, she started to feel nervous. Though they had been married for more than 1.5 months and had sex once after the marriage, she felt nervous. They had done nothing for the past 2 weeks. They wanted to give each other the true feeling of marriage. So she was filled with excitement for the entire 2 weeks. After a long journey, the driver pulled over in front of a bungalow. Sophia was surprised to see how beautiful it was. Brian leaned in close to her ear. She turned her head, and their noses brushed against each other. "Here's a small gift for you." "For me?" she asked with a shocked face. Did he give the house to her as a present? He smirked at her and replied, "Yeah, for you, baby girl. From now on, you will come here often to spend so many nights with me." He winked at her when she blushed. They stepped out of the car and went to the bungalow. There was no one inside except the two of them. In the midst of her exploration of the house, Brian reached out and grabbed her hand. He pulled her closer, causing her body to press against his. He tilted his head, brushed his lips against hers, and said, "I love you, Sophia." "I love you too, mate." As soon as Sophia replied to Brian, he pressed his lips on hers. She wrapped her hands around his neck, bringing him closer to her. She had a different sensation compared to the night that he had marked her. The mark not only bonded her to him, but it also permanently sealed the bond between them. As he started to unzip her dress, she let out moans in the kiss. She did not stop him. The dress slipped off her body, leaving her half naked. He picked her up in his arms and carried her to the bedroom. She was blown away by the interior decorations. However, Brian did not want to waste any time showing her around. He pressed her against the bed and climbed onto her. His lips began to leave his love marks on her body, giving her the pleasure she had been missing for the past 2 weeks. She grabbed his collar and pulled him close. Brian smiled as he observed her sudden dominance. He allowed her to take off his clothes. Throughout the night, the two bodies turned and twisted on the bed. The loud moans and groans were evidence of how they felt for each other and were feeling while making love to each other. During the time that Brian was pounding inside her, his eyes never left her face. There was no one who could have kept them apart from one another now. There was no problem that they needed to solve. They were happily married. The night went long, just like the night of their heat and rut. With tears in her eyes, Sophia begged Brian, as she could not take the amount of pleasure that he was giving her. She was turning on by just looking at the sex god in front of her. Brian enticed her more, teasing her to keep her turning on. He claimed he wanted to ruin her in bed every night. He could not just let go of the powerful wolf in a few rounds. When Sophia opened her eyes, she found herself lying on Brian's chest. He was holding her protectively. She kissed his chest and fell back asleep as it was early in the morning. The second time she awoke, she was alone in the bedroom. She sat up and rubbed her eyes. She got out of bed, wrapping the quilt around her body. She left the bedroom to look for Brian. She turned her head to find Brian, but he was not anywhere. She was about to return to the bedroom but heard noises coming from another door. She did not know the way around the house because she had not looked around. She approached the door and noticed it was a large kitchen room. Her gaze fell on the shirtless, handsome man wearing a gray apron. He was cooking something. She approached him on her tiptoes, and when she finally came to a stop behind him, she gave him a hug from behind. "Good morning, mate." Brian paused before turning around to face her. She raised her head while wrapping her hands around his torso. She gave him a smile. "What are you doing?" "Preparing breakfast for my wife," he replied, lowering his head to kiss her lips. She blushed and hid her face against his chest. He laughed and rubbed her head. "Had a good sleep?" She released him and leaned against the counter. He continued to do what he was doing. His eyes kept glancing at her bare shoulders and arms. She noticed it and mumbled, "Focus, you will cut your finger. Let me help you." "No need. Go and freshen up. I am setting the table for you." Sophia gave him a nod, like an obedient woman. She walked slowly, almost limping. Her lower back ached from Brian's pounding on her last night. She blushed deeply as the different positions sank into her mind from last night. She was lucky that Brian was not looking at her red face. When she returned to the table, she saw that Brian had prepared many dishes for her. She served him first and rested her chin on her palm. She was staring at him full of love. She could never forget how he cried just for her. She did not want to see him in that state again, but she wanted to remember it forever. Brian motioned for her with his brows. "What? Are you planning to seduce me by staring at me like this?" She immediately moved her chin from her palm and sat straight. "What? No way." Brian laughed and shook his head. Relax, baby girl. I was only teasing you. After they had breakfast, Brian was talking to her about taking her out since they would return to the pack house after 2 days. But suddenly Sophia grabbed his shoulder with one hand and held her forehead with the other. Are you okay? Brian asked with a worried tone. She tried to keep her gaze on him, but after a few seconds, everything went black. Brian immediately grabbed her waist when she was about to fall to the floor. Brian was taken aback when he saw her unconscious. He carried her into the bedroom, holding her in his arms. He hurriedly called his private physician and told him to come here. When the doctor arrived, he checked on Sophia. Brian was standing near the bed, waiting for the doctor to tell him Sophia was fine. He wanted to call Angelina, but she was not in the Nightshade pack right now. It was because Brian declared Ken Bruce's Gamma and assigned Angelina as his lead witch. With a smile, the doctor turned to face Brian. Congratulations, Alpha. You are going to be a father. Brian's eyes widened. Brian could not believe a little child was inside Sophia's belly. It was his child, his blood, and his heir. After a while, Sophia woke up. She looked at the doctor and asked him what had happened to her. The doctor confirmed that she was 2 weeks pregnant. When the doctor left after delivering the good news, Brian pulled Sophia into a hug. Thank you so much for the surprise. Sophia shed tears of joy. Brian leaned in and kissed her belly. This baby was a trace of their love. They would raise a strong child and protect their baby from all dangers in the world. A few years later, the Nightshade pack expanded as Alpha Brian emerged victorious in several wars. Other alphas avoided initiating rivalries with him, as they were aware of the consequences of any conflict with him. Meanwhile, the Nightshade pack had become well known for their Luna as well. The formidable Luna possessed the ability to eliminate any alpha at her will. People felt blessed that they could see the two moon children together. They had become the epitome of power and ability. On the other hand, Moon Valley pack was also rising slowly. Alpha Bruce led the pack with remarkable skill and did not let his brother down. That pack's members got their peace back. In the living room of the pack house, Sophia was sitting with her family. Her in-laws had become family to her. But she did not forget her mother. She went to see her once a week at her house. Everything had changed over the past few years. Everyone had found their mates and married them. Abraham found his mate, and just as he expected, he discovered a woman who loved him and cared for his mother as much as he did. She had a strong bond with Sophia. The pack house was full of people today. It was because today was Brian and Bruce, the two brothers' wedding anniversary. Bruce had come with Mila to celebrate his anniversary here in the Nightshade pack. Sophia smiled at the baby boy Mila was carrying. She extended her hand to the young boy and carried her there on her arm. It was Max, the son of Bruce and Mila. He was 1 year younger than Brian's and Sophia's child. Sophia kissed Max's cheek and said, "Aunt will give you a lot of chocolates. Are you happy?" The boy smiled at her and kissed her cheek in return. "Yes," he replied cutely. Everyone laughed at how adorable he was. At that moment, Abraham entered the pack house with a little boy. He was holding his hand. They both wore the same training clothes, but were different sizes. "Mommy." As soon as he saw Sophia, the boy ran toward her. While holding Max, Sophia hugged her son. "What did you learn today, Braden?" she asked him. Braden turned his head, glancing at Abraham, and then mumbled at her. "Uncle was showing me how to attack. I want to fight just like Dad." Everyone was stunned by the little boy's answer. He was only 4 years old, and here he had started to talk about wars. Sophia frowned and looked at Abraham. "Are you teaching him how to attack?" Abraham nodded his head at her. "Yeah, Alpha said his son should know everything from the beginning so that no one can take advantage of him being a child." Sophia looked away from Abraham. She got mad at Brian when she saw the swollen elbows of her son. He was a child. Why does Brian have to be so strict with him, she thought. "It's okay, Mommy. I am strong," Braden said, kissing her cheek. Sophia smiled at him as her heart was eased by how strong her son was. She told him to take a shower and then returned to accompany Max. Everyone admired Braden, as they could see Brian in him. He was a handsome boy with dark and mysterious eyes, much like his father. In the late evening, Everyone waited for Brian and Bruce to return to the pack house. The two brothers were out of the pack for the entire day because they had a business meeting outside. Sophia looked at the guests. Her family, friends, and everyone else had gathered at the pack house to celebrate the two couples' wedding anniversary. "Waiting for Alpha?" Angelina asked, winking at Sophia. Sophia shook her head. The other women laughed at her reaction. Sarah was there as well. She married Nolan 2 years ago, and now they are happily married. "You can't hide your emotions from us, Luna," Saloni said. Saloni was Abraham's mate. She was one of Sophia's classmates, so she knew she was a good woman. Sophia's mother was telling her a while ago how pleased she was to have such a good daughter-in-law. She said that Abraham and his mate had a deep love for one another. "They are here." Sophia heard Sarah's voice. A large number of cars came to a stop in front of the pack house. Bruce and all the officials of 2 packs entered the pack house. Everyone welcomed Bruce. He kissed Max and hugged Mila. He apologized for being late. Sophia focused her gaze on the main door. Her eyes shifted slightly when she caught sight of an attractive man. With passing time, he was getting more alluring and good-looking. His aura had remained unchanged. The way he stepped inside the house like a king, he captured everyone's eyes. Sophia could feel her heart skip a beat. "You are late, Brian," Alpha Harry said, moving toward his elder son from his younger son. Brian looked at his father and replied, "I was busy in the meeting, Dad." "Your family was waiting for you. At least you should not have scheduled work for today," Juliana said to him. Brian gave them a nod. His eyes roamed around until they caught Sophia's gaze. As soon as Sophia's eyes met his, she looked away from him. "Let's cut the cake," Sophia said to everyone. Everyone moved toward the large cake on a table. Bruce and Mila approached the table, standing in a corner. Brian made his way to the table. "Dad?" Braden grabbed Brian's hand with a smile. Brian rubbed his son's head and asked, "Did you do well in training today?" Braden's eyes grew wider in response. He gave an immediate nod. He held high regard for his father and aspired to win his heart. When Brian stood next to Sophia, he glanced at her. She dressed in a black gown that matched his black suit. Her perfect body and flawless beauty were making his eyes unmoved from her. On the other hand, Sophia ignored him completely. She reached for the knife, gesturing to Bruce and Mila to reach for the other one from the other side. To hold the knife, Brian covered her hand with his own. His touch caused Sophia to pause. While everyone else was busy taking their places around them, she felt his thumb slowly rubbing against the back of her hand as he stared at her intently. She was still able to feel an electrifying sensation from his touch, as if he were touching her for the very first time. However, Sophia was mad at Brian. On this important day, he made her wait as if it were unimportant in his eyes. She cut the cake, ignoring his touch. She remained calm throughout the party and said goodbye to the guests with a polite smile. After the guests had left, she instructed Braden to go to sleep in his room. She returned to her bedroom and began to remove her earrings. In front of the dressing table, she was seated on the stool that was there. Her eyes were in the mirror. Anyone would say she was not in a good mood. The door opened, and the man in the black suit entered the room. She did not look at his face in the mirror, since she knew it was her husband. She noticed him approaching her. He stood behind her and lowered himself. He placed his hands on her bare arm as she was dressed in a sleeveless gown. "What?" she demanded in an angry tone. Brian tilted his head and kissed her on the cheek. "I'm sorry, baby girl. Are you mad at me?" he inquired in a raspy voice. "No," she replied, continuing what she was doing. His right hand caressed her bare neck, causing her to close her eyes. Suddenly, she felt a weight on her neck. With a frown, she opened her eyes but froze. Her gaze fell directly on her neck in the mirror. She was staring at the necklace that Brian had just placed around her neck. "This!" She immediately stood up and turned to face him. "This emerald necklace. This is the only piece in the world that sold out during the last auction. How did you get it?" she asked with a shocked tone. She was not a fan of jewelry. But a few days ago, this necklace caught her eye at the auction where she had gone with Mila. She did not purchase it because it was too expensive, and she believed she should not spend too much money on herself. "I clearly remember." Some pack had bought it for twice the price to showcase it in their museum. She murmured. Brian smirked at her, rubbing his knuckles against her chin. And your husband paid 3 times the price for it from them. Her lips parted in surprise. It was not because of the money he spent on her, but because of the way he always catered to her preferences. I am sorry again, baby girl. I was late for this present. Bruce also wanted to buy something for Mila, so we both arrived late tonight. She hugged him and mumbled, Brian, you didn't have to. He kissed her head and muttered, Come with me. I have another surprise for you. Sophia was puzzled when he dragged her out of their bedroom. What was the surprise he was talking about? It was already late at night, and everyone had fallen asleep. What kind of surprise was he going to give her? As soon as he brought her out onto the balcony, she let out a loud gasp. It appeared to her as if she had entered a world of fantasy because of how exquisitely decorated it was. The large balcony turned into a dreamy place. She heard a loud sound from behind. She turned around and saw Brian close the balcony door. What are you doing? She asked shyly. He grabbed her waist and directed her to the other side of the balcony. She saw there were small sleeping arrangements. On the white mattress that was lying on the floor, she noticed flowers and champagne, along with fruits. Both of them smiled at each other as they sat down. So beautiful. Sophia hugged him with a smile. They were able to get a clear view of the moon because the balcony was located beneath the sky. The moon was the focus of Sophia's attention as she tried to take in its splendor. Meanwhile, Brian was staring at her. She blinked when she felt Brian leaning close to her face. Even after years of marriage, she could feel her heart racing whenever he was around. It was always the same as when it first happened. Their love grows stronger with each passing day. They were like cute couples, with the woman arguing with her man and the man trying to persuade his woman. Sophia felt Brian's lips against her own. She immediately turned to him and kissed him back. His arms encircled her waist, pulling her closer to him. They kissed deeply and passionately under the moonlight. Both of them were the moonchild who had been blessed by the moon. Sophia ended the kiss and looked into his eyes. The tenderness in his eyes reminded her of their past. She could not believe how happy she was right now. This man had changed her life completely. Everything was different at the beginning. Fate was truly unpredictable. She used to call him Big Brother-in-law, but he eventually became her mate and then her husband. Everything was not easy for her. She experienced an emotional roller coaster in the 2 years before her marriage. But at the end of the day, they got together. Fate did not betray them and give them what they deserved. She considered herself the luckiest woman in the world because she was the woman Brian Morrison loved. Why are you becoming so hot, even after so many years of marriage? Brian asked. His question caused her eyebrows to rise. She flushed and averted her gaze from him when she noticed his eyes on her body. He chuckled and lightly grabbed her jaw, turning her head to face him. Don't get mad at me again, okay? I want to see my baby girl happily roaming around. Otherwise, I will be mad at you. And you know, when I get mad, where I like to show my anger. He paused and tilted his head, then kissed her neck. She shut her eyes and took a deep breath. He moved up to her ear and continued, I will vent my rage and punish you in my bed, baby girl. She wrapped her hands around his neck and said, Brian, I love you so much. Promise me that you will never change and remain the same. It was then that he broke the embrace and cupped her cheeks. The love that he had for her was evident in his eyes. He kissed her forehead and replied, Even if we grow old and reach the end of our lives, my love for you will never change. I will keep loving you like this forever.